हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम करेंगे यूनिट 45 टीएस एलियट द वेस्टलैंड 1। ये यूनिट मैंने बताया 45 है, ब्लॉक 9 है एंड ब्रिटिश पोइट्री एमईजी 1 है। लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ। इसमें सबसे पहले हम टीएस एलियट का लाइफ एंड वर्क पढ़ेंगे, उसके बाद वेस्टलैंड का जो थीम्स हैं, इसके थीम्स और आर्ट के बारे में पढ़ेंगे। तो थीम और वेस्टलैंड का इट्स थीम एंड आर्ट जो है ना, उसके कुछ सब पार्ट्स हैं, जैसे कि कॉम्पोजिशन कैसे हुआ, पब्लिकेशन कब हुआ, फॉर्म्स ऑफ द पोएम पढ़ेंगे, फॉर्म ऑफ द पोएम पढ़ेंगे, किस फॉर्म में है पोएम, है ना, पोइट्स विजन के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स ऑफ व्यू पढ़ेंगे, मिथ, इमेजरी एंड सिम्बोलिज्म बाद में पढ़ेंगे एंड लास्ट में समरी ऑफ द यूनिट करेंगे। मैं ना यूनिट जैसे जो भी यूनिट मैं कर रही हूँ उसमें पार्ट्स दे रही हूँ। तो यूनिट 45 का देखते हैं, इस वाले यूनिट के कितने पार्ट्स बनते हैं। लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ। इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट हम सबसे पहले पढ़ेंगे। द फर्स्ट 50 years ऑफ द 20th century saw the emergence of two major poets in Great Britain, and their contribution to British poetry is of immense value. First came Walter Butler Yeats, 1865 to 1939, an Irishman who, while actively working for the Irish nationalist movement, made rich contributions to English poetry and drama. The other, Thomas Stearns Eliot, 1888 to 1965, was an American who made England his home and left behind him a wealth of literary works in prose, poetry, and drama. Both the poets were modernists who came under the sway of contemporary European trends of art and literature. Their literary works show the influence of the French imagist and symbolist poets. The efforts that they made in relating English poetry to the ongoing European literary movements are second to none. Though differing opinions have been expressed about their relative merits as poets of international repute, it is best to regard them as two bright future figures that contributed equally to the enrichment of English literature. Now, both of them successfully worked for the revival of poetic drama, which was virtually a dead literary form in Ireland and England. What is more, they inspired a young generation of English poets who appeared on the English literary scene in the years following the First World War, जो कि 1940 से 18 तक हुई थी। हम थोड़ा टीएस इलियट उनके लाइफ एंड वर्क के बारे में पढ़ेंगे और उनका जो मेन फीचर ऑफ हिज पोएटिक आर्ट डिस्प्लेड इन द वेस्टलैंड, अ लॉन्ग पोएम ऑफ 5 sections। तो हम थोड़ा उनके मेन फीचर्स पढ़ेंगे उनके पोएटिक आर्ट के, जो कि वेस्टलैंड में है, और 5 sections भी पढ़ेंगे वेस्टलैंड के। चलो, टीएस एलियट इनकी लाइफ और वर्क के बारे में थोड़ा पढ़ते हैं। T.S. Eliot was born on 26th September. Just wait. हाँ, T.S. Eliot was born on 26th September 1888 in St. Louis, a large industrial city in the Missouri state of the USA. MISSOURI, मिस्री या मिसौरी, कुछ ऐसे इसको पढ़ेंगे। हिज कैल्विनिस्ट प्यूरिटन क्रिश्चियन ancestor emigrated in 1667 from East Coker, Coker, a village in Somersetshire, England, to settle in a colony of New England on the eastern coast, North America. Eliot's father, W.G. Eliot, moved in 1834 from Boston to St. Louis and established the first Unitarian church there. A leading philanthropist of his time, he also founded the Washington University. T.S. Eliot was the seventh and youngest child of Henry Ware Eliot and Charlotte Charlotte Champ Stern, and the family background had an important role in the shaping of his poetic sensibility. Eliot trained himself to be a poet from the age of one, when he brought out 8 handwritten issues of a magazine called The Fireside. At school, his favorite writers were Byron, Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, 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 R. L. Stevenson, Conan Doyle, Swinburne, and D. G. Rossetti. Eliot's family tradition took him to the University of Harvard, where he spent 4 years in the study of philosophy. It was at Harvard that Eliot, for the first time, read some works of Baudelaire, Baudelaire, the French poet, in whom he discovered poetical possibilities that he had not found in any of the English poets. From the same source, he learnt how the real and imaginary worlds could be brought together in literature. The symbolist movement in literature by Arthur Simon Simon introduced Eliot to the French poets of the 19th century. Soon after getting his MA degree in 1910, Eliot went to Paris for a year to study French literature and philosophy. About the same time, he came under the influence of French philosopher Henry Bergson, Bergson, whose lectures he attended at Paris. But that was a passing phase. On his return to Harvard, Eliot registered himself as a मुझे कफ होने की वजह से ना मुझे बीच बीच में वीडियो रोकना पड़ रहा है. On his return to Harvard, Eliot registered himself as a graduate student in philosophy, since he intended to pursue philosophy as an academic career. He also studied Sanskrit, Pali, and Indian philosophy. The Bhagavad Gita was one of the Indian classical texts that he studied with interest. He learnt about Buddhism, the influence of which remained with him for many years. The concluding section of The Wasteland shows the shadow of Indian spiritual thought on Eliot's poetic sensibility. For a short while, Eliot studied in Germany and later went to Oxford, spending the years of the First World War, जो कि 1914 से लेके 1918 तक हुई थी in England. He married Vivian Haig Wood in June 1915. Though he went on a short visit to America to see his family, he had made up his mind to settle down in England. At first, he worked as a schoolmaster, but in 1917, he gave up that job for one at the Lloyd's Bank in London, where he worked for 8 years. Around this time, Eliot's poems began to appear, first in magazines and journals and later in small volumes. A collection of his poems entitled Prufrock and Other Observations was published in 1917, and The Sacred Wood, a book of essays, in 1920. The earlier modernists in England had rejected tradition and the freedom of a poet's expression, but Eliot, in essays, asserted that an individual writer needs to retain his links with the past tradition, which he should carry forward to the future generation. उस टाइम के जो अर्लियर पोइट्स थे ना इंग्लैंड में, वो रिजेक्ट करते थे ट्रेडिशन को, नहीं मानते थे, ट्रेडिशंस को नहीं लाना चाहते थे अपने राइटिंग में, और एक्सप्रेस भी नहीं करते थे अपनी पोइट के जो एक्सप्रेशंस होते हैं उनको वो एक्सप्रेस नहीं करते थे. लेकिन एलियट ने पुराने ट्रेडिशंस को अपनी इसमें लाया, अपनी राइटिंग्स में लाया, और जिस वजह से वो फ्यूचर के लिए भी ट्रांसफ़र हुए। उनके एक्सप्रेशंस, उनकी बातें जो है ना वो हम तक पहुंची। It was with the publication of the Wasteland in 1922 that Eliot came to be recognized as a leading light of English poetry in the period following the Great War. मतलब ग्रेट वॉर के बाद जो ये वेस्टलैंड इनकी पब्लिश हुई थी। ओके, गिविंग अप his bank job in 1925, Eliot joined a newly formed publishing house, which later came to be known as Faber and Faber. 2 years later, he gave up the Calvinist faith and joined the Church of England. This was not due to a sudden change of mind, but the culmination of a long process which coincided with his becoming a British citizen. तो जो कैल्विनिज्म को उन्होंने मानना बंद कर दिया था और वो चर्च उसके अंडर आ गए थे, चर्च ऑफ इंग्लैंड के, उन्होंने ज्वाइन कर लिया था। He declared in the preface to a book of essays that he was a classist. उन्होंने एक बुक में लिख भी दिया था कि उसके प्रीफेस में लिखा था, बुक ऑफ एसेस थी, उसके प्रीफेस में उन्होंने डिक्लेयर कर दिया था कि ही वॉज अ क्लासिस्ट इन लिटरेचर। मतलब क्लासिज्म को वो मानने लग गए थे, पुरानी चीज़ों को, रूल्स को फॉलो करते थे वो। मैंने पहले भी वीडियोस में बताया है। तो रॉयलिस्ट इन पॉलिटिक्स and an Anglo-Catholic in religion. This statement caused a flutter means फड़फड़ाना, in the English literary circles, where such firm beliefs were not publicly expressed. In 1932, Eliot revisited America to deliver 2 series of lectures at the universities of Harvard and Virginia. और ये बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट हैं। दीज वर लेटर पब्लिश्ड एज, जो उन्होंने लेक्चर दिए थे उनको पब्लिश किया गया था, किस नाम से? द यूज़ ऑफ पोइट्री एंड द यूज़ ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म, जो कि 1933 में पब्लिश हुए थे, एंड आफ्टर स्ट्रेंज गॉड्स 1934 में उनके लेक्चर्स को पब्लिश किया गया था। इन द ईयर्स दैट फॉलोड, एलियट ब्रॉट आउट सेवरल poetical works including 4 Quartets 1943, which many knowledgeable critics consider to be his greatest poetical achievement. It's 4 parts. अब जो 4 Quartets हैं इनके 4 parts हैं। पहला है Burnt Norton NORTON, दूसरा है East Cocker COKER, तीसरा है The Dry Salvages, and 4th one है Little Gidding GIDDING. Eliot also wrote and lectured on a variety of literary and social topics. As the editor of the Criterion, जो उनकी बुक थी, एक जर्नल था उनका, क्वार्टरली जो निकलता था, जर्नल क्राइटेरियन, इसको वैसे क्राइटेरियन पढ़ते हैं, है ना। He exerted far-reaching influence upon the English literary world. When the magazine stopped, published in 1939, Eliot turned his attention from literary criticism to poetic drama, which for several years he had been wanting to revive in England. He was commissioned to write Murder in the Cathedral for the Canterbury Festival of 1935. Its publication was, ये ड्रामा था, Murder in the Cathedral. Its publication was followed by that of the Family Reunion. इसके बाद जो है उन्होंने फैमिली रीयूनियन लिखा था, जो कि 1939 में था। द कॉकटेल पार्टी लिखा था जो कि 1949 में पब्लिश हुआ था। द कॉन्फिडेंशियल क्लर्क 1953 एंड द एल्डर स्टेट्समैन 1958. नाउ एलियट्स फर्स्ट वाइफ विवियन VIVI E.N., died in 1948 after a prolonged mental illness. 9 years later, he married his secretary, जिनका की नाम था Valerie Fletcher, much to the disappointment of his friend Emily Hale, whom he had known and corresponded with for more than 40 years. तो जो उनकी फ्रेंड थी उनका नाम था एमिली हेल, तो उनसे डिसअपॉइंट होकर उन्होंने अपनी सेक्रेटरी से शादी कर ली थी. By this time, Eliot's reputation and authority had considerably grown on both sides of the Atlantic, England में भी और अमेरिका में भी, in England and America. Earlier, he was known mainly to the younger generation of university students. Now his merit as a poet, critic and dramatist, acknowledged even by the traditionally conservative university scholars and teachers. While interpreting the age to which he belonged to itself, मतलब उन्होंने अपनी एज को इंटरप्रेट किया था ना, दूसरों तक पहुंचाई थी ये बात, एक्सप्लेन किया था उसको. He had maintained the standard of the highest literary excellence in whatever he wrote, whatever it was prose, verse और ड्रामा. बहुत अच्छे से उन्होंने इंटरप्रेट किया था, एक्सप्लेन किया था चीज़ों को. Several prestigious awards were bestowed on him, उनको दिए गए थे, in the wake of his literary success. He received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1948 and the Medal of Freedom, जो कि highest American civilian honor है, in 1964. After a severe illness in the winter of 1962 and 63, Eliot's health gradually deteriorated. He died on 4th January 1965. Among the distinguished mourners at the Westminster Abbey in London was his mentor Ezra Pound. तो एजरा पाउंड भी थे उनके, जो कि मॉर्नर्स में थे, जिन्होंने बोला था हु टोल्ड द गैदरिंग दैट, जिन्होंने गैदरिंग को ये बोला था कि द बेस्ट ट्रिब्यूट टू एलियट वुड बी टू रीड हिज वर्क्स. बेस्ट ट्रिब्यूट यही रहेगा कि आप उनकी किताबों को पढ़ें, उनके काम को पढ़ें. ओके, इस चेक योर प्रोग्रेस में क्वेश्चन है, हाउ एंड वेयर वॉज एलियट इंट्रोड्यूस्ड टू द फ्रेंच पोइट्स. तो इसका आंसर हम पढ़ते हैं. It was at Harvard University that Eliot first read some works of Baudelaire, ये मैंने पहले भी पढ़ा था, Baudelaire, the French poet. After reading Arthur Symon's book, The Symbolist Movement in Literature, he came to know about the contribution of the French poets of the 19th century. Second है, एलियट्स के मेजर वर्क क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर में बताए जाएं. ये मैंने ऑलरेडी आपको बताया है. पहले मर्डर इन द कैथेड्रल 1935, द फैमिली रीयूनियन 1939, कॉकटेल पार्टी 1949, द कॉन्फिडेंशियल क्लर्क 1953 एंड द अर्लियर स्टेट्समैन 1958. नाउ आई थिंक यहाँ पे हमें अपना फिनिश करना चाहिए. थैंक यू सो मच. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में द वेस्टलैंड, इट्स थीम एंड आर्ट हम स्टार्ट करेंगे. प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल एंड शेयर माई वीडियो. थैंक यू सो मच.